Gabby says go.
Hi, folks. Good afternoon. I'm John Wilken, the Interim Provost. On behalf of Chancellor Jones, who is out of the country, I want to thank you all for joining us here today. And thank you to Professor Moore over there, hi, and the staff of the Beckman Institute for hosting this event. Beckman's one of the jewels in the university, and it will benefit greatly from the legislative reform we gather here today to memorialize. We're honored that Governor Rauner chose the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign to sign the Senate bill into law, enacting the important reforms that it brings to state procurement, to state purchasing guidelines. Thank you for making the trip here for the signing. I know the road to this day has been long and has required tremendous time and effort from our state legislators and Governor Rauner, and I want to thank you all for that. To all of you who made this legislation possible, we're grateful for your patience and your commitment. This legislation will let us focus our energy and resources here at the university on providing the transformational educational opportunities and innovative research that has been an economic driver for this state for 150 years. It's also legislation that helps us be more productive, to make more productive use of the investments the state makes in us. So again, thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce University of Illinois President Tim Killeen. He's been a tireless champion of this effort, and I'm certain that no one in the room is happier to see this bill signed today than Tim. President Killeen.
I am indeed happy today, but I think Jeff and his colleagues are even happier. So good morning, good afternoon, and thanks for everybody being here. We're really honored that Governor Rauner chose the University of Illinois as his backdrop to sign Senate Bill 8 into law and enact the important reforms that will bring to state purchasing guidelines. Procurement reform has long been a top legislative priority for us here at the U of I system and for our three best-in-class universities. So I'm delighted that our input was solicited and incorporated into the final legislation. This is how public-private governance systems should work, because it's going to ease burdensome regulations that really do hamper efficiency. I'm deeply grateful to Governor Rauner and the legislatures, and there are many who have participated in this bipartisan effort. Notably, of course, Senator Rose, who's right here, and Representative Olsen, but also Representative Batnick, Pritchard, Representative Riley, Senator Harmon, Senator Althoff, and Senator Bennett have all contributed. So it's been a large, significant effort that's come to wonderful fruition. These reforms are a win for public universities and state agencies and for the people of Illinois. They will improve productivity. They'll cut down on the red tape to save time, money, and avert delays as universities and agencies purchase goods and services. At the same time, they will protect the interests of taxpayers by retaining the important checks and balances that ensure high quality, low costs, and fundamental integrity in the purchasing process. And the revised codes will also make the process simpler and easier to navigate, which will expand opportunities for companies to do business with our universities and with the state, and we're open for such business. For the U of I system, and specifically, the benefits are many. Higher formal bidding thresholds will make our universities more nimble and efficient as they serve the fast-changing needs of our more than 80,000 students and 24,000 faculty and staff in what is truly an increasingly competitive and global higher education landscape. As an example, our libraries will be able to purchase academic journals that are staples throughout higher education without going through unnecessary and time-consuming procurement reviews. The reforms will also provide much-needed relief for a Chicago-based hospital and clinics that spend over $400 million annually to provide health care for some of our state's neediest residents. And the reforms will avert delays that have slowed research and frustrated top faculty, threatening to chase them and their nearly $1 billion of annual research funding to states with less cumbersome procurement guidelines. For instance, our chemistry and biology faculty will be able to order a specialized microscope that is available from just a single source without jumping through year-long hoops that will attract other vendors that don't exist. So on behalf of the entire U of I system, my thanks again to Governor Rauner and the state legislature for coming together to enact these reforms. We promise you that we will make you proud in our implementation of them, and we will serve the needs of the state as effectively as we can. So now it's my privilege to introduce the Governor of Illinois, Bruce Rauner. Governor Rauner is a champion for education and innovation and the power they move to move Illinois forward. The University of Illinois system stands firmly behind that vision of helping drive progress and prosperity that have been the core of our mission since our land-grant founding 150 years ago. Our campuses are incubators, as we've just seen firsthand, of pioneering discovery and a pipeline for the highly skilled workforce that are critical to success in this century. Again, I'm grateful to Governor Rauner for supporting today's procurement reforms and other initiatives that will help the U of I system build on its rich legacy of service to students and the public good. Please join me in welcoming the 42nd Governor of the state of Illinois, Bruce Rauner.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be back here in Champaign, Urbana at the U of I. U of I is simply one of the greatest institutions of higher learning anywhere in the world. And I personally, both as a private citizen as well as the Governor of Illinois, am committed to helping the University of Illinois expand its mission and achieving greater success in the future to benefit all the people of Illinois and around the world. This is a wonderful place, and I want to specifically come back here to sign this bill. You know, we have many challenges in government in Illinois. One of the challenges is just red tape and bureaucracy and restrictions and requirements. We have tremendous bureaucracy and restrictions. Most of it was originally put in place with good intention, but often the cost and the detriment of the effort was actually worse than the problem that it was trying to fix. And we, for years, because we've suffered from insider deals and corruption and cronyism, we put in all these rules to try to end it. You know, it's hard to regulate ethics, and when you try really, really hard, pretty soon you've got a mountain of paperwork, and ethical behavior, I'm not sure it's any different. So we've made an effort to try to encourage ethical behavior and encourage good government, but try to also balance that with making government efficient and effective and transparent. Our procurement rules are stunning. Very, very cumbersome, very painful to administer, and it results in delays of months and months that otherwise good work that should be happening is not happening. And I know specifically here at the U of I, where this is one of the greatest institutions of research in the world, many research projects are held up because we can't buy the equipment on a timely basis, or we can't procure the services required to help the research go on for months. This is wrong. This hurts the university, it hurts our economy, and it hurts our students, and it's a detriment at every level. So I have to say procurement reform has been a top priority for our administration since I became governor 2.5 years ago. We've advocated for it, and I want to thank the General Assembly for finally acting. This was bipartisan legislation. It took a lot of negotiation and effort. I'll say it's not perfect. I'll also say I hope in the future we'll go further. There's more we can do, but this is a good positive step in the right direction, and it shows what we can do when we work together on a bipartisan basis. This bill can benefit the U of I as quickly as any other entity in the state by immediately allowing purchases to go forward to get research projects off and running. And based upon the estimates I've heard, this can save the university tens of millions of dollars every year. That's wonderful for our students, that's wonderful for our faculty, it's wonderful for the taxpayers of the state of Illinois. So this is great. I've also been assured by members of my administration that within the government itself, within our state agencies, our departments, Central Management Services Agency, our Department of Corrections, our Department of Agriculture, and others, this bill will allow us to save hundreds of millions of dollars every year. This is big stuff, and it's wonderful. This is major progress for the people of Illinois. We'll never give up. We'll keep working on this. There's always more streamlining we can do, more red tape to cut, but this is a great step in the right direction. And as part of this, I will be encouraging the state government to further release the U of I from the bureaucracy of the state government. The more you can be run for the benefit of your students and your faculty as an entity that's not necessarily subsumed within the government bureaucracy, the more the university will thrive. And we're going to try to achieve that every way we can. I also am encouraging the General Assembly to work together on a bipartisan basis and pass a capital bill. I hope we can do that soon. I would love to see our state government step up and help the university with capital expenditures and invest here in Champaign-Urbana primarily, but also around the state, because the U of I is simply one of the most important economic engines for economic prosperity and economic growth of anything else in the state of Illinois. This is arguably maybe the best economic engine we have. And we want the U of I to grow here in Champaign-Urbana, but also expand its economic benefit throughout the state of Illinois. This is exciting, and I'm very committed to this. The President and I have been working on various initiatives in this regard for months, and I hope we can make some good announcements of that soon. We're certainly working hard to achieve that. Again, I want to thank our legislators for working together to get this bill passed on a bipartisan basis. And one of the leaders, one of my favorite, I think one of the great members of the General Assembly, Senator Chapin Rose is here, and I'll ask Chapin to make a couple of comments. Thanks.
Thanks, Governor. I would be remiss if I didn't start by saying thank you for choosing Urbana-Champaign to sign this bill. This has been a thorn in higher education side for a long, long time, but a big thorn in the U of I's side. And I'd like to step back for a moment and thank a few people who aren't here. One is Senator Pam Altoff, my colleague in the state Senate. She couldn't be here today, but if I was the bad cop driving this thing, she was the good cop who was in fighting and changing and trying to rewrite the code, as well as Senate Majority Leader Harmon. I want to welcome Representative Olsen, who's here today. He is a 2011 U of I graduate, so welcome back, Representative. We appreciate you being here. He's from Downers Grove. Welcome Jamie Ray from the Illinois Board of Higher Education, and we appreciate their support in this rewrite that's taken a while to get done, but we're finally here. On Bob Easter, I don't know if it was he and I sitting at Muhammad McDonald's one morning, but he was the one who said, "Hey, numbskull, you guys went way overboard on your procurement code." And I said, "Well, tell me about it." And then, we got to talking, and he wasn't the only president calling. At the time I was transitioning out of representing Coles County at the Eastern University and transitioning into representing the ISU area as well. And everywhere you go, you hear about what a nightmare this procurement code had become. And so I know Bob's traveling overseas right now, but he should get some credit as well while we're talking about awarding thanks and aplums. So I want to talk about some numbers. Back in March of 2015, then President Easter did testify before our legislative hearing, where he said he thought as much as $70 million a year is being wasted at the University of Illinois system-wide on procurement code. Now, that's not just staff and the headache. On the way up, Professor Moore was telling us, I think he said, you were trying to get a $55,000 piece of software, and it took over a year to get the software. I mean, that's just one example in the elevator on the way up here. But Bob was talking about the net cost of the system. It's kind of hard to estimate what it is on the time loss, but let's talk about some purchases. In 2013, a steam kettle here cost more than $15,000 higher than what was budgeted because of delays in the process. Illinois State University, trying up the road, trying to get a software for a computer-aided facilities management system, received 6 proposals. 5 of the 6 were kicked out, leading to anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 more in cost because the ones that were kicked out would have been lower bidders, okay? SIU, $144,000 wasted on a chemical storage building, again, because low bidders were kicked out. Those are just a few examples. The higher education procurement officer testified at one point in time that EIU, down the road, my hometown, that they'd lost over $230,000 at one point in time because of these particular types of procurement issues. So these are real dollars. They're absolutely real dollars for higher education, but it's also real dollars to the entire state process. I sit on a legislative panel, and many in this room will remember the whole issue over Health Alliance and some of the things that happen with how we procure state insurance, okay? Well, on the state insurance contract for prescription drugs, it's a multi-billion-dollar contract, multi-year contract. Obviously, the taxpayers want to get the cheapest price. We buy a lot of drugs. We have a lot of employees. We have other, uses for pharmaceuticals. $3 billion contract. The chief procurement officer, Matt Brown, testified in our committee that in the first opening bid, the 3 bidders, Catamaran, PBM, Caremark, and Express Scripts, these are all national firms with entire phalanxes of attorneys and regulatory specialists, all 3 of them got kicked out of the bid because they couldn't figure out how to navigate Illinois' procurement code. Okay, it's a $1 billion contract. So they went back to bid. This time around, one of them was kicked out. So I asked him, do we know we got the cheapest price for the taxpayers in a multi-billion-dollar contract? Can't say that for sure, no. Okay? That's the answer you got. So that's why this is real. It's real dollars. It's really important to the University of Illinois. It's really important to all of our higher educational institutions. It's going to be great for student tuition payers and their families, but it's also great for the taxpayers, and it's well beyond just higher ed, but certainly right here the need is critical. And I'll close with this. I forget who it was, but one of my fondest memories in legislative service was a few years ago during the Quinn administration. I got a phone call right before a holiday tournament, and the basketball team, the Fighting Illini basketball team, was sitting at Willard Airport on the tarmac in a plane. So we can't take off. I said, well, why not? I said, we can't find the person in Springfield to sign the paperwork to rent the plane. And I said, can you call somebody? And I said, well, gee whiz, why you call me? Why don't you call Fergus? He's a Democrat. It's the Quinn administration. And anyway, we called somebody. We finally found somebody. I don't even remember when it was or who it was that we found, but needless to say, the team made it. But I stopped to think, and it's funny, I pulled this article from Tom Kasich in 2015. March, I was quoted as saying about the governor, this is the kind of stuff that drives him nuts, right? And here we are. We're finally fixing some stuff that drives all of us nuts. So I appreciate you doing it here, Governor. Thank you very much, and look forward to everyone else's comments.
So with that, it's an honor to sign the bill. And again, I want to emphasize, we wouldn't be here today with a very good piece of legislation if the leaders at the University of Illinois hadn't been lobbying and advocating aggressively. And from President Killeen and the Provost and everybody here at the university, thank you for advocating for good government, for good processes at the university. This is a major step, and it came about through a large team effort, and thank you for your leadership. This is wonderful. So with that, I'll sign the bill. I've gotten better over time with signing my name with like 10 pens. It's not a life skill I had before should have been born with a longer name, it'd be easier. There we go. It's good legislation. Here you go. Provost, thank you for your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Absolutely.
Senator, thanks. Great job. Appreciate it. Thank you. So we can take on-topic questions from the media on this issue. It's important, and then on other topics, I'll let folks move out of the way of the arrows that'll fly, and then we'll talk about other issues as well. Any on-topic questions? Yes.
Governor, the bill says that these shall not apply, these new procurement rules shall not apply to purchase of care, and that there's this big managed care organization shopping that the state is doing right now. Why carve out that specific bid that's going to be billions and billions of dollars?
I don't know exactly the reason for carving that out. We have been going through a new Medicaid managed care bidding process. I can't comment much on it. The results have not been finalized yet, but they are coming soon. And at that point, we'll be able to talk about the process in some detail. Any other?
You talked about some other reforms you'd like to have help the university along with procurement. Can you go into that?
Well, I'll just say, unfortunately, the U of I, but all our state universities have sort of been subsumed into government to a fair degree. The pension systems here, a lot of the regulations around employment, many of the management processes, they've been almost imposed on the university, and the university hasn't had the flexibility to run the university as the university and the faculty and administration sees fit. A lot of restrictions, a lot of mandates, a lot of requirements, and a lot of limitations. And in my view, the more we could free up the university to run itself as it sees best, I think it would be a good thing. Government, let's be clear. Now, I've been in there 2.5 years. That's dog years. It's like, 18 years, but a bit 2.5 years. It is amazing how poorly run government is, and how slow to change, and how it's common sense. You go into a department and say, we should change this and this. Well, you can't. You got to go get this permission, and you got to go sign that, and you got to go through a 10-month process, and even then you might not be able to change it. And you're like, you're kidding me. We're wasting millions of dollars. Well, you know. So getting the university away from that as much as we could, I think, will help the university. I'll be advocating for that.
Governor, the CMS right now and your appointee to the Procurement Policy Board are both under investigation by the Auditor General. Are you worried at all about the perception of rolling back the very rules that were put in place, as you said, to prevent insider deals at this time?
Well, you see, so I'm not familiar with investigations you're checking on, you're referring to. That said, what we have found both with folks we've brought in as well as other folks, sometimes you get someone who makes a mistake or doesn't behave properly. We try to find out and remove them immediately. The one thing I'll say is you can't really regulate ethics very well. You know, you either bring in honest people who try to do the right thing or you don't. Not perfect. I don't think any entity is perfect. But when we try to say, let's create lots of red tape to try to force ethical behavior, a lot of times the result is actually worse than the problem you were trying to fix. And we've been suffering from that in Illinois to a fair degree. And we've tried to bring in the best people we can. I'm very proud of our team, but I'll say that there's been a couple people who we brought in who made some mistakes, either intentionally or unintentionally, and they have to be removed, and we do the best we can.
When you talk about reforms at the university, are you talking about collective bargaining, freeing them from?
Well, there's just there's a lot of things, just regulations, pensions. The university should be able to compensate more people as what works for the university and have some more flexibility. To have to work in lockstep to the way government does it, I don't think that's best for the university.
And we heard some examples from Senator Rose about how the state lost money in the past. Can you explain how rolling this back would save the state money? How does that work?
Okay, so that's a great question. This is the core issue. So with this freeing up, making the process more flexible, the university has done, and the president may want to comment, knows the better number. What I've been told is this could save the U of I annually $30, $70 million, $30, $40, $50 million a year by being able to buy things more promptly through a more efficient process, and we can get lower costs when a manufacturer says they know what the commitment is, they know what their deal is, they can actually be more aggressive in their bidding and lower their costs down. And we see that in every level.
Mark,
You want to talk in the microphone?
everyone in this room who's nodding when we're having this press conference has been through this nightmare, okay? It comes in a lot of ways. There's lost manpower hours, okay? That's very hard to quantify. But there's also, what was the cheapest bid? You kicked out 2 or 3 vendors. And by the way, in the Express Scripts and all that Caremark PCS, there was no indication anybody did anything wrong. They just couldn't figure out how to manipulate the procurement code and get their bid considered. All 3 were kicked out. They're nationwide companies that bid all over the country without problem, okay? So, but what's in that bid? SIU, here's another one. SIU had to spend an extra $8,000 for bakery products at one of their dorms because a financial disclosure product kicked out the lowest bidder, and they had to go to the second lowest bidder. So you ask about how it's going to save money in the future. You're going to have all those irritations at one, but you have the real dollars are going to be saved by being able to, to sort of fix a legitimate paperwork problem, knowing that's the lowest bidder, but maybe they didn't submit their SOS certification. Okay, big deal. Send it to us. Get the lowest bid for the taxpayers. So there's going to be a whole, by the way, Ben Bagby, who is the procurement officer for higher education, had a big input into this. All the procurement officers did. So this is going to very much improve these folks' quality of life as they work around the U of I, but it's going to save the taxpayers, and importantly, this institution, the students, a lot of money.
Our administration has estimated that inside government, separate from how it'll save our universities money, we believe that this bill will save over time. We'll work our way up to it. It's not going to happen day one, but we will save annually something on the order of $250 million to $300 million per year once this is fully implemented and we change the process. There are many companies, I've talked to some, who say, we won't even offer to supply Illinois. It's too painful. It's too costly for us, the bureaucratic cost and then the uncertainty of the result. Because in the end, we may work really hard to become a very low-cost bidder, and we'll get tossed for some other reason. It's like not worth the aggravation. And we've gone through, I'll say this, we've gone through some contract bidding within our administration, and we've ended up with one bidder or no bidders. Because people said, no, not going to do it. Well, let me be clear. If you end up with one bidder, you're probably not getting a great deal.
The other thing is sometimes, and Tim or Professor or John, you might want to talk about this, especially U of I, you're bidding such high-end electrical equipment, computer-related equipment, there may be only one vendor anywhere in the world. And now you're completely snagged and caught up, and there's delay after delay.
We had a case here at Beckman Institute in which there was a one-of-a-kind. Remember, we're cutting-edge research, and it's not industry standard. There was really one vendor. That vendor chose not to opt in because it was too difficult to navigate through that road and the procurement process road. And so in the end, it's just a source of frustration not being able to do our research.
Governor, we have time for one more question.
Okay. Yes, yes.
I wanted to ask, what's the significant error in the State Board of Education found in your mandatory veto that they're creating the model for?
So I'll answer that in just a second. Is there any other on topics? Because then we can go into other. Okay, so we're good. Okay, so on the education funding formula, which we're trying to get revamped. People have tried in Illinois for 20 years to get new education funding formula. The good news is we're very close. The bad news is the bill got hijacked at the last minute, and it's a bad policy got inserted into it. So that's why I had to do an mandatory veto. What we found, our staff reviewed the work of ISB, and our staff found some just mechanical errors. It's very, very complex. This is simultaneous equations with many, many variables, and it takes days of staff time to do it. So we pointed out the errors. The staff at ISB agreed that our staff was correct. There were errors, and they're redoing it, and we'll be publicly coming out with that. I said, can we get it immediately? They said it takes a little time, but very shortly we should have the numbers out.
Weren't these errors, though, a part of the TIFs and the PTEL aggregation or the calculation that you wanted to incorporate? And wasn't that something that you just added to the mix recently here? Or if not, why not ask for that information from the Department of Revenue months ago?
So, the mandatory veto was clear about what we needed to calculate, and the errors we found were at multiple levels of the analysis, and hopefully that new analysis will be done. Let me emphasize, this is a really important point, on our TIFs and our PTEL, which PTEL is property tax caps. What we have in Illinois is a broken system where a local community can decide to remove its properties, its commercial property, from the tax rolls to fund schools. And then we have a system where, for communities that choose to do that, the state then is obligated to subsidize that and make up the difference. We need to adjust that because we have some communities who've just aggressively taken their commercial property off, not funding their schools anymore, and then expecting people in other communities to make up that difference from their own taxes. This has been going on in Illinois for decades. It's one of the reasons we have high taxes, and some communities have benefited at the expense.